Alright folks, been a hot minute, huh? Hope you've all had a not awful end of 2020, beginning of 2021. It's a new year, innit? A new year. Not off to the best start, is it? Hardly the new year, new me that the world needed. But with another year down, that means it's high time for a little chinwag about some movies. Specifically, movies that done got released in 2020. More specific than that, good ones. 10 of them. My 10 best films of 2020.
Yes!
Thank you.
Fuck yeah! I've never known fucking happiness like this. Holy shit!
It's just my voice off camera. Not what I'm doing. I don't need to be the one to tell you 2020 was a shit show for many different things in the world. But weirdly, films didn't really end up being one of them, kind of. In general, I kind of think films sort of had a good year anyway, all things considered. Yeah, sure, we had a butt ton of delays and cancelled releases and things were pushed to streaming, which signalled a terrifying potential spiral for the very end of cinema going as we know it. So quite a few ticks in the other column, I get that. But I guess I just mean like, there was still a very large amount of very decent films out in 2020. I saw a load of them, which I'm incredibly thankful for. It did look for a hot second there like it was going to go very much not that way. I vividly remember thinking, this is it. The Invisible Man is going to be the last film I end up seeing in 2020. We just pack it up here, guys. But yeah, things did come out. I know. I was as shocked as you were. We just had to adjust to watching them differently at home on our screens as opposed to in a theatre with a bunch of different people. I genuinely, truly miss being in a cinema more than anything. But for the meantime, it's nice that there were actually some bloody good gems out there last year. So let's run through my favourites, shall we? Little button before we get started good and proper. Firstly, as usual, these lists can tend to be quite subjective, but I just wanted to, get it out the way first. You don't need to worry. This is the objective actual list of best films of 2020. So we can just squash that one before it gets going anywhere. I don't want to hear any, Stu, this film isn't the best of 2020. Or Stu, this film should have been in the best of 2020. I don't want to hear it, because you're wrong. Secondly though, and you'll know this if you've been following my channel for a while now, my lists at the end of the year tend to be a little bit weird, a little bit skewed, just because of the nature of release dates around the world. Usually America getting things first is how that tends to go. This year's releases though, even more bloody whack, which means there are a few I truly desperately wanted to see before I made my best of 2020 list, but I'm just not waiting. I'm just not waiting till March, dude. I can't do it. I'm looking at you, Minari and Palm Springs, which doesn't, by the way, have a fucking release date here in the UK yet, which I'm not fucking bitter about. But on the flip side of that coin, because of things going virtual, film festivals and the likes, I did get a chance to see a whole bunch of films that are yet to come out here in the UK and will be coming out in 2021, technically, but I saw them in 2020, so they're going in my 2020 list. I'm sorry if that's confusing to people, but I don't make the rules, all right? I don't... Oh. Apparently I do make the rules? I can do anything I want. T. Holy sh... I've got a... Whiskey. Oh my... okay. Man with a dumb new moustache and a habit of talking too much before he starts his videos. Huh. Ask me if I put that bit in the video just purely so I had an excuse to make a whiskey and drink it while I'm making a video. Go on. Yeah. I put the bit in the video just purely so that I had an excuse. Here now though, what am I going to do? Not drink it? Fuck off. Going straight down the gullet. Let's go, baby. Should we get this baby rolling? He asked rhetorically, because he's in control of the video. Number 10 is Eliza Hittman's Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always, which is far more than a collection of words. It is a gorgeous film. Straight up, I was blown away by this one. To keep it short and sweet, it is essentially the story of two teenagers who are traveling between states when one of them accidentally falls pregnant. And it is so good, this film. I didn't really know much about it, and then I heard loads of people saying, hey, this is a great film, and I watched it, and sure enough, it was a great film. For my money, Sydney Flanagan, who's the lead here, still gives one of the best performances of 2020. It's a very quiet film, and I don't mean that in like a Christopher Nolan, somebody please talk a bit louder sense. Just like a very patient way of storytelling, which works perfectly for the topic. It just allows these two characters to go through what they're going through without interfering too much. You know that feeling like when you're watching a film and you're like, oh man, so great of this director to not get in the way of these fictional characters. Number 9, or as I like to call it, still number 9. I don't have a different word for the number 9. I'm thinking of ending things. Which is, fun fact actually, how I started every conversation with a friend and loved one in 2020. Fuck, it's too easy a joke. It follows a couple as they are traveling to the boyfriend's family home so that the girlfriend can meet them for the first time. I set that up like it's a rom-com. Very much not a rom-com, this film. And it should come as absolutely no fucking surprise to anyone that's watched the channel or knows me in real life that a new Charlie Kaufman film would find its way into the best of the year list. But it's done it, it's in there. But this one is legitimately very good. I don't know why I'm saying that as if I have to defend myself. I think the dude's a fucking straight up genius at certain points. But I know it's kind of becoming more of a thing to like either love him or hate him. If you're not on board with Charlie Kaufman at this point, this ain't gonna be the film to do it. I really loved that kind of horror movie genre meshing with Kaufman's usual kind of dark existential themes and tones. It's one of those films where it ends and you're just sort of like, all right, I guess I'll just spend the next 4 hours of my time researching what the fuck just happened. And I know that's not how a lot of people like to enjoy cinema, but those people are wrong. In at number 8 is Soul. Which is Pixar's latest, hey, watching a kids film, just a quick reminder that death is a very real thing that we're all hurtling towards endeavor. And my friends, just like a fresh, crisp piece of A4 paper, it rips. It's basically about a jazz musician that has like a, I was gonna say near-death experience. He dies. He just dies. He has a death, one of those, and the film is just like him trying to get back because he's decided that it's not his time, he's too young and he's got too much left to do on Earth. And I was a little bit skeptical going into Soul. Not that I wasn't excited for it, I thought it looked really good, but there were just a few things that looked like they might be a bit too similar to another certain Pixar film, which was incredibly, hugely popular that I just didn't really like that much, that happened to rhyme with Schmin, Schmeid, Schmout. But thankfully, it's kind of not just Inside Out, but with jazz and a slightly different theme. It's way better. I would take this over Inside Out any day of the week. I think it's the jazz stuff mainly, and the kind of more adulty themes that are in there that I just think I just connect a little bit more with. Maybe it's also just that it's got the voice of that woman and it's in all of Taika Waititi's films. What is her name? Hang on. Rachel House. Rachel House is in it. So did you have that Inside Out? I don't fucking think so. Number 7 goes to A. Mofay, or This Is My Desire. And without sounding like too much of a prick, I'm willing to bet a lot of you watching this don't know about this film. There was no way of doing that without sounding like a prick, was there? But this was genuinely one of the biggest surprises of the year for me, because I just knew absolutely nothing about this film going into it, and I just didn't really want it to end. It's one of those films which just soaks you into its world, and I was happy to spend as long as I needed to with these characters. Turns out, wasn't long enough. It's basically a look at two characters in Lagos who are both, in their own different ways, attempting to emigrate to Europe, and it's just watching them go through the process of trying to get that to happen. It's very much a kind of slice of life film, which may or may not be your cup of tea, I don't know. For me, it's not just my cup of tea, it's the gosh darn pot. I don't think it'll really come as much surprise to anyone watching this when you're looking at me that I don't spend a lot of time with Nigerian cinema. So this was like an entirely new perspective to me. I think it's out in the UK in a few months, but honestly, I don't know. It's coming out some point. Keep it on your radar. Quick whiskey break. It's melting rapidly. I did not think this through. I've wasted whiskey. The biggest crime a man could do. In at number 6, Boris, please let's not have a fourth lockdown, because I think our collective mental health is on the rocks. It's rocks. A glorious little gem, which I think I originally missed at the film festival in 2019, and then it was like, hey, I'm releasing. You know how films do that? It's set in North London, and it basically follows a story of a girl who comes home from school one day to find that her mum is no longer there. She's just sort of vanished. She's disappeared. And it's kind of less about that big dramatic device than you'd think, and a little bit more about that girl and her friendship group and her relationships with her friends. And it just feels so authentic, this film. It's just through and through. I think they even wrote the screenplay alongside the central actors, so they were able to kind of mold the scenes and the dialogue around how they would naturally speak, which just adds this whole other level of authenticity to this one. One of those films I didn't really want to end. I was like, yeah, I could watch many hours of these people just being around each other. It's on Netflix right now, so you have literally no excuse to not watch this one, unless of course you don't have Netflix, in which that's the obvious excuse, I guess. Number 5 is Supernova. This is another one of those films which I saw at the London Film Festival this year, virtually, and it isn't out in the UK yet, so sorry. But Supernova is a drama starring Colin Firth and Stanley Tucci as a couple who are dealing with the effects of early onset Alzheimer's. Not fun, obviously. Absolutely as moving as that sounds. Goodness gracious, you wouldn't believe how much I cried during this film. I cried so much, my cheeks were like Armie Hammer's pants at the Body Worlds exhibition. Soaked. It's got two gosh darn kings delivering just effortless and amazing performances. It deals with a topic that I personally just find incredibly overwhelming. I think it's one of the saddest things and most distressing and disturbing things that can happen to someone. It's tough. It's a difficult watch, but it's very powerful, very good, and it's definitely worth it. Just know that it's a heavy topic when you get into it. And in at number 4 is Hamilton. I felt a little bit dirty putting this in the list, if I'm honest. I'm not exactly sure why, but it's just, it's Hamilton. It's a stage play, but it also happens to be like the biggest stage play of all time, and they just filmed it, and it's like, yep, get into the best of the year list for the films. Am I the only one that feels wrong doing this? I'm doing it anyway, so it can't clearly have that much of an effect on me. Fucking rips. Don't really know what to say about Hamilton that hasn't been said by everyone ever already. If you haven't seen Hamilton, hold out if you can for whenever this thing gets back to normal and you can actually see it on stage. But if you must, yeah, the film version's fucking great. Number 3 goes to Mangrove. One of Steve McQueen's many projects this year. I could leave it at that, and that's all you need to know, really. I just loved it so much, and it's so annoying and frustrating to have to say it, but it's true. It did come at a really fucking relevant time in the year, which obviously makes it all the more impactful, but everything about it is just nailed. Just nailed. No surprises, Steve McQueen directs the fucking shit out of it. Everything looks amazing. The performances are great. We know that he can get amazing performances out of basically anyone. So there's that. And it's obviously a part of history that I didn't know too much about either. So it's one of those films that just like part fucking amazing, technically wonderful film and part history lesson, educational. You learn some shit watching this film. Good film, but not as good as the next 2 films because they're higher in the list. Number 2. Oh man, can you feel things heating up? I can't. It's very cold at the moment. Number 2 is Baby Teeth. Again, I actually think I missed this one at the film festival in 2019. And so I sort of popped around and I was like, oh yeah, I was excited to watch that a year ago. Let's see how it goes. Want to know how it goes? Why don't you ask my heart? Oh wait, you can't. It's broken. It's a heartbreaking film. Without giving too much away, it's basically about a girl who has a terminal illness. She's dying, and it's about her relationship with a new boy that comes into her life and her family. And it sounds, on paper, like obviously something we've seen done countless times before, right? But I think that's what really blew me away so much about Baby Teeth, is that it can be that and also do everything differently to what we've seen before. It feels like a completely unique experience, and I just loved it. Performances are all brilliant, but I love Ben Mendelsohn, and upset that we didn't get to see a cigarette dangling from his lip really loosely, because that's my favorite kind of Ben Mendelsohn role. Best one of those was Place Beyond the Pines. Let's be fucking real, guys. Look at that cigarette. Don't want to be anywhere near that guy's mouth, but he's not letting it go. I was kind of like a little bit speechless by the end of this film, so that's a good sign of any good film. Honestly, brilliant film, completely and utterly unique, on Netflix as well. So yeah, if you've got Netflix and I find out you haven't watched this, So help me, there's not a lot I can do about it. But now we find ourselves at number 1. Oh my god, this is it, guys. This is the film of 2020. And it's another one which isn't out in the UK yet. I feel dirty, but I also don't care. It's Limbo. It's directed by Ben Sharrock, and it's pretty much the story of a bunch of asylum seekers in this Scottish island. It is a fictional island, but it's obviously dealing with kind of like a process which isn't fictional. It's like there's no one in the world that's going through the asylum seeking process. But it's like a comedy drama, right? It is quirky and weird in a very offbeat way. But again, kind of like Baby Teeth, it sort of slowly weaves its drama in and becomes very, very powerful. I loved everything about it. As soon as I finished it, I was like, yeah, I know this is gonna be a tough one to beat. And even while I was catching up on films from 2020 after seeing it, from October to now, nothing topped it. It's quite inspiring, I think, when you see films like that and you're like, oh, I want to be making a film like this. And now I can't because you've fucking made it. So, well, you know what? Fuck you, Limbo. Obviously don't fuck you, Limbo. You're the best film of 2020. And I'd like to take you out on a date. But that is it. Those are my 10 favorite films of 2020. Sorry it's a bit late. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you want to see full reviews on some of the films I've talked about here, luckily I've done a couple of those on the channel through the year. Not all of them, but a few. So I'll put links in the description down below for the films I've talked about today that I did do full reviews for, so you can check those out if you fancy it. Also, while you're here, there's a bloody subscribe button and it wants clicking. So like we could not do that, but I don't fucking think so, mate. Let me know as well, please, gosh darn it, what your favorite films of 2020 were as well. We'll have a little discussion there. No doubt, I'm sure some of you will be like, Parasite, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. And if you're about to type that, yeah, go for it. Fucking amazing films. They did technically come out in 2020 here. Like, I'm not gonna fight it, am I? Just know you're wrong. The 2019 films. Sorry. This is just coloured water at this point.